You guys ready? All right, class.
Yes.
All right, thank you, wonderful faces, for being here. I appreciate it, I do. And for all those people that are not here, I'm sorry that you're not here. We're missing you. Okay, so solving right triangles 2.4. So now, what that means is solving it, you're solving everything. All the sides and all the angles. That's what that means. So if there is not a value for a side, or if there's not a value for an angle, that means you need to solve that. Okay? Basic definition. There we go. All right, blah, blah, blah. I hate doing that. Don't do that. Okay, don't do that either. Okay, solve it, all the sides. Now, we're going to go from here. I'm going to start right here on this one, because why not? So, solve the right triangle. That means I'm solving all sides and all angles. Now, I already know that this right here is a right triangle. So this little thing in this corner right here means that is how much? That's 90. So that's a known value. You know that's 90, so you don't actually have to even fill that in. You know that's 90. Now, all three angles in a triangle have to add up to what? 180. All three, very good. So you were thinking of the other one, right? So all three will add up to 180. So if I subtract 90 from that, because I know that there's always a 90, I know that A and B together have to add up to 90. So these ones right here, A and B, will always be complementary. So those two together will add up to 90. So let's say, for instance, I want to solve for big B. And I know that A and B are complementary. They add up to 90. So I would take, to solve for big B, so angle B, okay, to get angle B, I would do 90 minus 34 degrees, 30 minutes. You can do it in a calculator if you want, or you can do it in your head. What is it, 55.5, so 5530? Is that what it is?
Do I have to put like the answer in there?
Yeah. Okay. So angle B there you go. That's all the work you have to show to find those other angles. Not much, but there is some work you have to show. Do you know where I care about the degree? On the answer. So, all right, so now I know what that one is. Now, I'm going to actually use some sine, cosine, tangent to be able to solve for little a or little b. So, what's going to be my reference angle here? Your reference angle is the angle that's given to you. So it's going to be big A. Big A is the reference angle, because that's given to you. That means that's your starting point on all this.
You want to solve for little a or
No.
No?
You tell me. So think about it carefully.
Because I thought
Let's start by writing down, what's the phrase that pays?
the hippie thing.
Some
Old hippie.
old hippie
Old hippie.
caught another hippie
Oh yeah.
tripping on acid. So from my reference angle is big A here, right? So let's label it from the reference angle. So from big A, little a would be considered the opposite. That one's the opposite there, right? From big A, little b is considered the
Yeah, we don't have it.
the
Yeah, it's the adjacent.
adjacent, right?
And that's the hypotenuse.
That's the hypotenuse.
That's why it's dependent. You don't have the and you have the hypotenuse, so it would be fine.
I can use sine, because I'm going to start by solving for little a.
Yeah.
Now, when I do this and solve, I can only have one unknown value when I do my math. So I can't have two unknown values. I cannot use A and B together. I have to use at least the known value of my hypotenuse. So let's set this up. So let's set it up saying I'm going to use sine. So it's the sine of what angle?
A.
Yep. But do I have a value for A?
34.
Yep. 34 degrees, 30 minutes is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So the opposite value, what variable is the opposite value?
Oh, that's A.
Little a over my hypotenuse, which is?
12.7.
Yep. So now, by filling this out like this, I only have one variable. I only have one unknown value. So by doing all this, I could do, it's an equation, I could solve for this right here. So whenever I have this right here, and I have the variable on the right-hand side, the variable over here in my fraction, I'm always, every time, going to multiply by the bottom. It doesn't matter if the bottom is going to be a variable. Because at some times, your bottom will be a variable. It's just, you're going to have one more step. So right now, what's the bottom of this one?
12.7.
So I'm going to multiply both sides by? Yep, 12.7. Now what's going to happen to the 12.7 on my right-hand side? It's going to cancel, right? So that's going to go away. So I'm going to be left with 12.7 times the sine of 34 degrees 30 minutes is equal to little a. Hey, is my little a now by itself? So that's by itself, that's isolated. So now from here, plug in the calculator. And since you're using your calculator, what do you got to make sure that you're, yep. I don't know how long it's been there, but it's been bothering me all class. I didn't know if you wanted it there. You still want that? Okay, hey, no worries. All right, so what do we get for little a? And let's round this to a tenth. Do you know we're going to round it to a tenth? That one's already rounded to a tenth, isn't it? What do you get?
I like that. What do you get?
7.
7.2.
7.2? You guys all agree? So a, little a, is going to be about 7.2. Now I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do this again, but there's two ways I could do this one now. But I recommend the first way. The second way, I'll tell you right now, if you know two sides of a right triangle, what could you do to find the third? Pythagorean theorem. You could use Pythagorean theorem all the time. All the time. Okay, that always works. But it's a little bit longer in this case because we have, some numbers with decimals and stuff like that. So you don't want to do a square, all that other stuff. Don't worry about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this again. I'm going to set it up. But now, instead of using sine, what am I going to use this time? Okay, so now, serious question though. If I use tangent, what if I made a mistake on A?
Yes.
Then B would be wrong no matter what. You want to use the given. You want to use your given. In this case, I'm going to use the C again, right? I'm going to use my hypotenuse again. Because it is possible to get this one wrong and still get the next one right. So that's why I'm going to use the given. So let's go ahead and start again. So it's going to be sine of 34 degrees 30 minutes is equal to, it's not sine, is it? It's supposed to be cosine. So this one's supposed to be cosine. Why is this one cosine and not sine?
Because sine is opposite of hypotenuse.
This one is adjacent, very good. So this one's gonna be adjacent now. So since I'm now using to solve for little b, I'm using the adjacent, not the sine. So it is cosine of 34 degrees 30 minutes is equal to adjacent, which is my little b, over my hypotenuse, 12.7. Again, what am I going to do to both sides right here? Yeah, very good. Let's multiply both sides by 12.7. So, as we multiply both sides by 12.7, I get 12.7 times the cosine of 34 degrees 30 minutes is equal to little b. Now, whenever I'm doing these, there is a thing called a restriction. Is it possible for little b to be 15? Why? Very good. It's bigger than the hypotenuse. That's something you have to actually like think about and look at whenever you're doing this. You're like, oh, I might have made a mistake if my number is bigger than the hypotenuse, right? So there's going to be an issue if you get something like that. So that's something I just wanted to check with you to make sure you remember. All right, so now what do we get for little b? 7 point, 10.5. Now, did I solve all angles in all sides? I have A, I have B, I have C, I have little a, have little b, and I'm giving little c, right? So guess what? This is all solved. So whenever you're doing these problems right here, it's best to draw the triangle out as you're doing your work and show your steps. Okay? So, from here, I'm going to stop right here for today because I want you guys to have time to actually work on this right now. Okay? So, so we're done with example 1 here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this one here. And don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification button and go ahead, support my channel. Buy some stuff from my merch store.